Hey, it's Becky. Welcome back to the podcast, and I'm so happy that you're here with us today. So today I'm doing a solo episode, and that's a question to answer a question that I get asked a lot, and that's how do I land my products in a big box retail store? So we're going to go over what it takes and what you need to do so that it's just kind of a reality check before you start jumping into pitching to retail stores. Now, as product-based business owners, we all dream about seeing our products on retail store shelves. I know I did. When I got in the product-based space, I dreamed about seeing it in all these big stores, but I'm going to go through exactly what it takes. So there's some questions that I want you to ask yourself before you start pitching. And that is, the first one is the store. So you have a store in mind and you go, okay, is my product a good fit for that store? And will it fit on the shelf there? So you want to make sure that whatever the display is or the planogram that the buyer is buying for, that your product would fit in there. And then figure out also what is your unique selling proposition where you can make that product fit in as you're pitching the story to the buyer. So one of the things that I used to do all the time is if I had a store I wanted to go put my product in, I would go to the store and just study it like crazy. So I knew who the competitors were and what products were in that space. So you kind of figure out what are the retail price points of everything in that buyer's department in that section. And you have to know that if they're going to put you in there, they have to kick someone else out. So you kind of envision where would my product fit and looking at the price points that the buyer has in that department and in that section. Do I have something that would land or that would fit there perfectly? So then the next question that you want to ask yourself is, if you land this account, can you produce to the volume that they would require? Could you ramp up your production and would you be able to deliver the products in the amount that they would need in time? And then the next question you want to ask yourself is, financially, can you afford to be in this big box retail store? And what I mean by that is they are going to place really big orders and they're going to be placed way ahead of time because you have to be able to deliver that much inventory. But then not only are they going to do that, you're going to be out the raw materials for 60, 90, 120 or more days. Then they're going to take about 90 days to pay you after they deliver the products. A lot of the big box retail stores will pay on net 90. Some of them are quicker, and that's something that you can work out and negotiate, but be prepared that they will probably ask you for net 90. Okay, so then the next question is, does your product have the profit margin to deliver to the buyer? So I'm going to give you an example. Typically when you sell something wholesale, let's use candles because I was in the candle space. So say a candle retails for $20. Your normal wholesale to an independent retailer or a smaller retail or even a mid-tier retailer would be $10. They want half of that. But when you're dealing with the big box retail stores, they want at least 65 points margin. So to put that in perspective, that same $20 candle would now retail or would now sell, the buyer would buy it at wholesale for $7, which means now your cost on that candle should probably be no more than a third of that. So your cost all in should be $2.33 on a $20 item. And, you know, you have to discount a lot to get in these big stores. And I've sold to most of the big retail stores in the U.S., but the volume makes up for it if you can handle the cost of that. And one thing to remember too, the more I ordered from my vendors, the raw materials, knowing that they were getting these big orders with the big accounts, they gave me a better deal. So you can negotiate raw materials and pricing as you raise your volume with these manufacturers that you're buying from. before you produce your product. And that's one way to help with that margin. But that's the other thing that you need to worry about is the 65 points margin. The next thing you want to think about with these big ones, can you deliver the reorders? So they usually do what they call a big fixture fill, where they'll put the inventory in the stores and then they'll have a certain amount of inventory as backup. But when they place their reorders, I know with a lot of the big retailers we only got a week or two to deliver. So we would get the order on Monday and had to ship by Friday. So you're going to have backstock inventory if you can't produce with just-in-time inventory on those big volumes. So that's another thing to consider. Another thing you want to think about is you have to be set up through EDI, which stands for Electronic Data Interchange. That means these retailers will, as their cash register rings, it keeps track digitally of what their sales are. So it lets the buyer know what their reorder volume is. So you have to set up with a third party, the EDI, unless you bring it in-house like we did. We brought it in-house where we did the EDI processing, but that is a big, huge thing that you're going to have to deal with too. The other thing that you want to think about with these big box retail stores is there are shipping guidelines and rules that you have to follow. You have to submit your ASN, which is your advanced shipping notices, before your product ships. You have to do that within so many hours. There's just a whole big, huge 3-inch binder almost from every retailer, what their shipping guidelines are. And if you are not prepared to deal with that, then the chargebacks can be huge. So there'll be a percentage for shipping late. There'll be a percentage for shipping the ASNs late. If you have to get an extension, if you can't deliver on time, there's going to be a chargeback for that. So you want to make sure that internally you have all your processes in place that you can handle all of the shipping guidelines that they have, or you'll have to deal with chargebacks. The next thing that you're going to have to think about is they will ask you to put an insurance policy in place to protect them so that if one of their customers has a problem with your product and brings it back and returns it, then your insurance policy would pay if there was a problem, say a house burned down because of my candle or something like that. It would be me they would come to. So I know we had to carry at least $2 million of insurance on a lot of the big retailers, and some of them could have even been as high as 5. So you're going to have an insurance policy there. So the next thing to know is the buyers buy so far ahead. You can't go in there right now and pitch something for this fall because they've already bought fall. You have to be a year ahead. So you have to make sure that your products that you're pitching, that they are the trends that will be popular. Then you're going to have to, watch trends and be aware of buying patterns. So for example, a Christmas order in a big box retailer like Kohl's, we would have our Christmas orders in January of the year before they shipped. So we would know in January what we were going to be shipping for Christmas that far ahead, because you think about it, we had to buy glass in China, bring all that glass over and produce it. So then that gave us time to work with all of our manufacturers where we would buy the raw materials from, and for us to get glass from China so that we could ramp up our manufacturing and get those orders in. So you want to think about that. The next thing that you want to be thinking about also is when you go in to pitch your product to the buyer, you have to be able to very clearly and concisely tell your buyer what your product is, what it does, and why they need it. You also are going to have to tell her why your product should be in there and how it's going to fit in among the competitors. Now, here's a tip. I don't ever want you to trash a competitor to the buyer. Think about it. Those buyers get bonused on their sales, gross margin, and inventory turns. So the buyer has made those decisions to put the competitors in there, that you don't know how that product is turning. And really, buyers care about 3 things: sales, gross margin in their department, and inventory turns. So it's important that what they bring in sells and resells so that they are successful. So the worst thing a buyer could do for their career path is to bring in a product that doesn't sell through. So you need to know your competition inside and out. You need to know how your product can sit with the competitors and that you can contribute to that buyer's gross margin for that inventory and reduce the inventory in that department with the sales of your products. So I spent a lot of time studying competitors. And one of the things that I used to hear all the time from buyers was, well, I already have Yankee candles, so I don't need another candle. And I was prepared for that because I had studied that. My candles were more of a novelty candle. They had little sprinkles on the top. So like if I had a birthday cake candle, it had birthday cake sprinkles. If I had a blueberry muffin candle, it had little wax blueberries on top. So mine was a novelty. And my reply to the buyer every time was, oh, this is not just a normal candle like Yankee. Yankee doesn't have anything like this. This can sit side by side with Yankee. We're not competing. We're contributing to the sales in your department. And that, knowing my unique selling proposition and having that nailed down worked to my favor a lot. Another thing that the buyer is going to ask you is, what is the history of your company? What are your sales? Give me some success stories that you've had. Where have you sold your products? So this is a reality check to you guys. You cannot be a startup product-based business company and then go in and pitch to Target. Not going to happen. Target wants to know that you can deliver, that you have been shipping and selling, that you have shipped to some smaller accounts, that you have shipped to some big tier accounts, so that they know that if they place an order with you, that you can deliver and that other retailers have had success with your product. So I would not jump right into a Target. I would be figuring out, where can I start where it's smaller so that I can build up some success, so that I can have a track record and that I can show the buyer that, hey, I don't get chargebacks. I can deliver, I can produce, I can get my raw materials on time. So I would be thinking about some mid-tier accounts and where can you start, or some smaller accounts there till you build up a track record. And then once you get your products in place and you're stable and you're profitable and you've got your processes down, then you can go pitch to these big accounts. Big box retailers are great. They give you visibility, but they also give you so much exposure and risk if you're not ready. So the key thing that I want you to be thinking about is, how can you get yourself prepared to be ready to sell to these big box retail stores? So start small, find some mid-tier accounts and some smaller accounts, build up that track record, and start pitching. And as always, if you need anything and I can help you, hop on over to beckyjanderson.com, and there's lots of resources there, and I would absolutely love to help you. There's a guide on how to grow your sales on my website there, and you can hop on over and download that and get started. So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.